Becoming Yourself with Dr Maev Conneely, Episode 3. This podcast brings together wisdom and tools from coaching, clinical psychology, and mental health research to help you become who you want to be. Hi everyone. Thanks so much for tuning into the third episode of Becoming Yourself. I'm really excited to have you here, and today I'm going to talk about procrastination and avoidance and feeling unpleasant feelings. So let's jump right into it. So I'm going to paint a picture now of somebody who has a goal. Let's say they want to learn to drive, they want to pass the driving test, and they want to be able to drive. And this is something they definitely want. It's not just that their parents are saying they should do it or whatever. It's, in alignment with what they want for their lives. Because I guess I'm going to talk about why we don't do the things we say we want to do. And I think sometimes it's because we said to somebody else we want to do it, but actually we never really wanted to do it. But that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about the frustration and confusing situation so many of us find ourselves in when we haven't done something that we wanted to do and we really wanted to do it. We wanted to have it done for some reason. Maybe we also were going to enjoy the process, and we're really confused as to what happened. We're people with free will, and yet I didn't study for that exam or, revise for the theory of the driving test or write that pitch document for my boss who was giving me this chance, so I could have put myself up for doing something impressive, which might have increased my chances of getting the promotion that I really want. So something that you actually really want, that's working, that would bring you closer to your goals and becoming who you want to be. So let's stick with this example of the person who is revising for the driving test, and they've set some time aside to do the theory, to revise the theoretical stuff for the test, and then they realize that the day has gone by and they haven't done any of it. They haven't done any of the revising. They've texted their friends, or they have cooked an elaborate meal, or they've, replied to emails. Maybe they've gone on a big run. Maybe they just, kind of said, oh, whatever, I'll find a time to do it some other time, went out to hang out with friends. So there's nothing inherently wrong with any of these other activities, but there's a departure for this person between what they said they wanted to do and what will bring them closer to who they want to be and what they actually did. And so now the next day is arrived and they're thinking, what did I do? And they're really frustrated, really confused. They're asking, why? Why did I do that? And I think that this is particularly confusing when the thing you do in a sort of procrastinating and avoidant way isn't even pleasant. It isn't even nice or enjoyable. And I found myself in this situation when I was doing my PhD. I was trying to write a paper about a topic I found really interesting, and writing the paper involved reading literature and making notes and all activities that I really liked. I genuinely enjoyed doing. And yet I would find that I didn't do the work. I didn't put time into it. And I would do other things that I didn't enjoy at all. I would find myself cleaning, which I don't like doing, or going off on these big long runs. And then I'd go out and buy loads of food and cook big meals and eat to the point of pain. I would do all of these things that weren't even fun. They weren't things that I liked doing. They weren't nicer than writing the paper. And it felt a bit compulsive. I would kind of be so exasperated with myself. I was saying, why have I done this again? This is the most important thing to me at the moment. I really want to do it. And I would just find myself asking why in this sort of deeply not understanding way. And I think that the answer to that question, to that why, is important. And very often we want to say something like, oh, well, you just need a little bit more discipline, you just need to put your head down and do the work, and it's just that it's boring work, or I'm lazy, or something like that. And I guess that all of those explanations didn't seem to fit with me, or to kind of, they didn't feel right, because I wanted to do the work and I liked it, I enjoyed it. And none of those explanations sort of helped me break the habit of doing this kind of desperate avoidance and procrastination. But what did help was finding a truer answer to the why question. And the answer for me, and I think that this is true of everything we do in life, is that I was desperately trying to avoid having a feeling. It wasn't so much the work itself, although I was obviously also avoiding the work. I was avoiding having a negative feeling. And so much of what we do, maybe everything, is to have a certain feeling or to avoid a certain feeling. It seems like an obvious shift, maybe, or maybe not even a revelation at all. But for me, it was a key that unlocked an understanding of myself that meant I was able to change this behavior. Because what would happen is I would open up this document where I had to make my notes and put the bits of reading on my topic into the paper. And when I would open the document, I would think things to myself like, gosh, you're so behind on this. You're way behind where you should be. And you've been given this big chance and you're not doing well enough. You're not being impressive. You're not doing as well as you should be, and you're letting people down. And I was filled with a feeling of shame. And it sounds a bit kind of, maybe a bit dramatic, but that's what I was feeling. And that was a really unpleasant feeling. And when I realized that was what was happening, it made sense why I was trying so hard to not have that feeling. Why I was willing to watch television I'd no interest in, or kind of often eat in a way trying to dull my feelings. I was desperately trying to not feel shame, which is a really unpleasant feeling. And so I would not even start the work because I thought, well, when I open up that document, I'm going to feel shame. And of course, this is the real kicker, is that it was completely unsuccessful. All of my attempts at not feeling shame didn't work. I felt more shame the next day when I was still behind and I'd spent a whole day, watching television or eating or, doing these things that were not making me who I wanted to be. So it didn't work. I did all of this trying to not feel shame. And not only did I fail at avoiding the feeling, I intensified the feeling of shame. And I'd taken a step and was a step away from the direction I wanted to get to. I got further away from where I wanted to be. So whether the work is your job, writing this pitch document, or going to the gym to get stronger, or passing the driving test, whatever thing it is that you've decided you really want and you're avoiding, it might, and you're kind of really confused as to why you're avoiding it. It might not be so much that the action itself is what's difficult. It could be a feeling you're having, Are you avoiding a feeling of anxiety when you work on the pitch document for this promotion at work? When you start working on that, do you think, oh God, it'd be really embarrassing if this doesn't work? Or who do I think I am going for this? I'm too young, or I don't know how to do this. You could be having these thoughts that fill you with an unpleasant feeling like shame or anxiety or sadness or embarrassment, or maybe something milder like confusion or uncertainty. Those aren't nice feelings to have in your body either, and that might be something you're trying to avoid, and so it's more comfortable to stay in a feeling of certainty where you do know how to load and unload the dishwasher. I guess there's a separate question here about how willing you are to feel unpleasant feelings. I guess if you want to do new things, if you want to learn new skills, if you want to get that promotion at work, or just do something new that you've never done before, there probably is an element of uncertainty in that. There probably has to be a willingness to have unpleasant feelings. So if we go back to this, let's say you have this realization, oh my gosh, that's why I don't go and do my driving practice. It's because I really don't want to have this feeling of anxiety or sadness. And so I'm doing anything to try and avoid having that feeling. There are two kind of things you can immediately do when you notice that. And the first is to try and see what thought is leading to the feeling. Like for me, I was thinking things like, I'm so behind, I'm blowing it, I'm messing up this chance I've been given. And now if I start thinking things like that, it's possible for me to question the thought and be like, oh, well, am I really that behind? Because now I know I wasn't actually behind when I was thinking that and getting overwhelmed by the feelings. I was actually I was ahead of time. But I really believed that I was behind. And so that's what mattered then. And there was nothing at that point I could do that could talk me out of that. I really believed I was really behind. So if you can't sort of question the thought, you might notice the thought and then be like, gosh, I cannot believe I'm believing that. That's so silly, and I can just let it go. It's not true that I'm an imposter. I do know how to do this job. I am ready for this promotion. I am providing lots of value. Why am I thinking this other thing? That's silly. So that's one nice, easy scenario where you don't even have to have the feeling that's coming from the thought, because you don't have to believe the thought. But let's say you do believe the thought still. You aren't able to just kind of shake it off or let go of it like that. And you do believe that you're behind and you're letting people down, and you feel this shame. The second thing you can do is deliberately face into and feel that shame. Which sounds awful. I know it doesn't sound like fun at all. But there's something really brave in it. And as I was saying before, you're not actually successfully avoiding the shame anyway, or the anxiety or the pain of whatever form. You're having it anyway. But if you do it this way, if you kind of deliberately sort of let yourself feel it, you get to... There's a bravery in it that I'll come back to in a moment. But B, also it becomes less strong, the feeling. It becomes less strong, and you are able to, when you're not resisting it, you notice that the feeling is a vibration in your body. If you really kind of notice where the feeling is in your body, is it a tension in the pit of your stomach, or a kind of a pain in your back, or a tightness in your throat. See where the feeling is and notice that that's what it is. It's not nice, this sadness or this frustration or this uncertainty. It's a bad feeling, but it might be a lot less bad if you are sort of able to accept it and able to notice it and not desperately resisting it. And then C, the third thing, of course, is that if you're sitting and accepting the feeling, you aren't doing these other behaviors of procrastinating, or that might be, setting you back, that might be harming you in other ways. So there are lots of benefits to kind of being honest with yourself and trying to get really curious about why you aren't doing the thing you said you wanted to do. And what feeling are you trying to have or trying not to have? What feeling are you afraid of having? And can you decide to just have the feeling, even if it's a really bad one? Even if it's a really bad feeling and it immediately becomes worse because you're like, oh, I do feel really sad. I do feel this kind of, this bad thing. So this solution of feeling things deliberately and facing into the bad feeling intentionally it's backed by research, there's evidence for it, both with psychological pain and with physical pain. So we know from this kind of, it started in the sort of Zen Buddhist tradition, and now you probably have heard of mindfulness or mindfulness-based stress reduction, which started as a way of helping people cope with chronic pain. So as people who aren't going to, the pain is never going to go away. And they found, and now they've shown in lots and lots of studies and meta-analyses, so studies where they bring the findings of lots of different studies together, they found that being mindful and kind of accepting and noticing the pain lessens the pain, even physical pain, pain in your back or in your joints. Doing being taken through noticing the pain and sort of leaning into it can make it less painful for people. And the same is true for psychological or emotional pain, that if we stop resisting a feeling, even a kind of a mild annoyance, it can become less intense, and it definitely loses some of the power it has over us. You might think that letting me, me a few years ago working on the PhD, feel shame for being behind sounds like giving in and a bad thing to do, that I shouldn't sort of lean into that feeling. I should not have the feeling to begin with. But of course, the reality is that's where I was at. That's just where I was at, and trying to resist it was making it worse. It was leading to all of these other sort of side effects and making the whole situation worse than just feeling the shame and kind of admitting and acknowledging where I was at. And it had a lot less of a hold on me, a lot less power over me when I was able to just kind of notice that, when I was able to feel the shame and immediately realize that it became a lot less. If I just said, yeah, I'm feeling this and it's in my body, and basically a few minutes later it was a lot less intense. It was a lot less intense, and all of the sort of other behaviors that were trying to avoid the feeling and trying to make it less intense were a lot less successful. They kind of numbed it for a little bit, and it always came back stronger. So that's my suggestion for you. Look into yourself and see if you can find what feeling you might be afraid of having, or what feeling you're chasing in these behaviors that you don't want or that are taking you further away from a goal you've set. And see if you can lean into those feelings and let yourself feel them. And I guess the real exciting thing that comes from that is not only do you get to cut out some of these behaviors that might be harming you and the people around you, the kind of avoidant, procrastinating behaviors, but you also get to build a relationship with yourself where you show yourself that you're able to do really hard things, that you're able to have hard feelings and still be there. That you can have that sadness or that anger in your body, feel it in your body, and that you're still there. That is really unpleasant, but you're still there having that feeling. And that can be a real lesson in your own strength, you know, and the things that you're able to experience. Because I guess it could be similar to feeling physical pain. Let's say you're training for a marathon, but at the moment you can't imagine running for 10 minutes without taking a break. You know, it seems completely impossible. And then you go on this run and it gets to 9 minutes, 9 minutes, 15, 9 minutes, 30, 9 minutes, 45. And you get to 10 minutes and you wanted to stop. You know that it was unpleasant. You were tired. You know, your brain was saying, nah, let's just stop. 9:30 is fine. But you kept going those 30 extra seconds. And you showed yourself that what you're capable of. And letting yourself feel unpleasant emotions can be the same thing. It's not nice. It's not nice to feel anxiety or shame. But you're willing to do it, or you're willing to do it for this goal. You're willing to face that and to kind of pay the price of looking at, like, uncovering this feeling of shame, to write the paper. And then once you start writing the paper, you realize, oh, this is an interesting thing here, and that's helpful. And actually, maybe this could help someone someday. Maybe this is a valuable piece of work. And you start having those thoughts that lead to different feelings that are brilliant, like feeling, you know, inspired and excited, and also maybe sort of amazed at yourself and saying, hey, look, I've picked myself up and here I am doing this thing that I never thought I would be able to do. But I'm doing it. And maybe if we're willing to feel those unpleasant feelings, you also unlock all of these other positive feelings that come from being able to be vulnerable and being willing to be rejected or to be embarrassed or to fail. So let's see what's possible if you're willing to feel deliberately, including the negative feelings. And often if we're doing things in a kind of a compulsive way, it is a fear of having an emotion. And actually the emotion might not be as bad as you think it's going to be. And even if it is as bad, it might be bad and also you're not doing some other behavior that is making your life worse in some way. Okay, so that's enough from me today. Please get in touch if you have any questions at all or any concerns or worries. You can find me on Instagram at Dr Maev Conneely, and I also have an email which is on my website. My website is drmaevconneely.com. So yeah, thanks so much for listening.